So there's a bit of a taboo in the MBA world, and that is admissions consultants. Nobody wants to admit that they've used one, but there are people that claim that close to 40% of students at top programs use the consultant to get in. And I'll let you get in on a little secret. I was one of them. So what do MBA admissions consultants do? Let's start with what they don't. They do not guarantee that you're going to get into any school. They do not write your essays. They do not write your resume, and they cannot interview for you. These consultants do help in reviewing your essays, editing your resume, preparing you for interviews, and in general, guide you through the entire process that is applying to MBA programs. For the most part, these admission consultants are people like myself, people that have gone to a good program, they've graduated, and now they've learned a thing or two about how to get into these schools. The best ones are actually career coaches and a little bit of therapists. These consultants are expensive though, and they can charge anywhere between $3,000 to $30,000 depending on how much help you need. I paid around $8,000, worked with an agency called Career Protocol. So consultants typically sell their services by the hour or in packages. Hourly is typically if you only have a few questions, you only maybe want to do one mock interview or just want to review part of your application. Full packages are fixed fee where you'll pay a fixed amount to help you with the complete application from start to finish for a certain amount of schools. And that depends on each agency or consultant. So I was applying to 6 schools, but I couldn't really afford the 6 school package. So I went with the 2 school package. I chose to get help with my HBS and Stanford applications. Apart from being notoriously the hardest to get into, they're also the most comprehensive and longest applications. So the thought process was, if I got help with these 2 very comprehensive applications, I could take pieces of them to fill out all the other applications I knew were a lot shorter and more condensed. So when working with these school packages, it's typically a 4-step process. First is discovery, second is application completion, third is interview prep, lastly, post-admission support. So the discovery phase is the get to know you part of the process, and it's the most fun. And this is where it's actually a little bit of therapy and a little bit of career coaching. So my experience was filling out a massive form with every potential question in the book. What countries I visited, what were all the classes I took in college, what were all my achievements at work, and in the end, they create this massive presentation that just basically tells you how awesome you are, and it's basically a summary of your life. And you could argue this alone is probably worth the price that you pay. I mean, who doesn't like to hear about how awesome they are? And why do they do this? It's because MBA admissions is famously a holistic process, right? It's not like law school or some other programs that are very black and white. You know, what's your test score? What school did you go to? It's very much, what's your career history? What are your career goals? In addition to test scores, admission committees also want to know how you as a person will fit in with the whole class that they're putting together. They're essentially curating a 2-year networking event, party, classroom, whatever you want to call it. The discovery phase will typically include a school selection component where you talk to your consultant about what schools you want to apply to and why. And they'll give you ideas for some schools you didn't think about or where they think you'll fit in the best. And the final part of the discovery process is discovering what your career plan is. What are your short, medium, and long-term goals? These are naturally very hard questions. So it helps to talk to someone who's a little more senior than you, someone who has seen from their experience with MBA applicants and alumni, what are all the different career trajectories that you can take, and combine that with the whole history and picture they painted of you going back to your childhood. The next phase, where you work on the application itself, is where you cover the resume, the short answers on the application, your long essays, and your recommendation essays. Again, these consultants won't write the application for you, but they will review your essays and edit them, provide guidance, tell you to think about things a different way, or remind you of parts of your own story that you gave them in the discovery process that they think would fit in better in certain examples. Every consultant will be different, but my experience was something around a 2-day turnaround time, where I would send in my resume or essay on a Monday, and by end of a Wednesday, I got a revision back that I could then take and make edits to before sending it back in vacuum. I probably did around 10 revisions for my resumes and essays just with the consultant alone. That's not including all the favors I asked from current students and alumni to review my application as well. Note that if your recommenders are okay with it, they can also work with the consultant to work on their recommendation essay of you, which is also tremendous value add. Finally, the consultants will review the whole application and make sure it is pristine before submitting so that there are no final errors. After a little break, you start getting interview invitations, and that's when you get back to work with the interview preparation phase. So essentially every school has their own way of how they interview candidates. Some will have an alumni interview them, some will have an admissions consultant, sometimes it's a current student, sometimes it's multiple interviews. So your consultant will actually impersonate whoever that person is and interview you in that same style. Each consultant will have their own plans on how many of these mock interviews you can do with them. And finally, you get to this post-admission support phase, where they're essentially helping you pick from all the different schools that you got accepted to. This can sometimes include help with negotiating scholarships between two schools you're probably considering. For me, to help with the decision-making process between the school that gave me a full ride and the dream school, which is why I applied to MBA programs in the first place. And spoiler alert, I went to the dream school. So typically, if you're working with a consultant, it's because you want a admissions letter at the end of it. But in my experience, you actually get a lot more. What I walked away with the most was a very deep understanding of who I was as a person and what I wanted to achieve with my career. An incredibly useful arsenal of communication tools, tips, tricks, and skills, and marrying those two together to understand what I want and why people should work with me. So you're sold on getting a consultant, now you want to know how to find and pick one. So my best advice is actually treat this like if you're going on a ton of dates. Every consultant will offer an initial 30-minute consultation, which typically is 20 minutes of answering your questions and giving you advice, and another 10 minutes about selling you on why you should work with them. So if you're resourceful about it, you can set up probably 30-minute sessions with different consultants and ask each one of them a different question. Ultimately, you could walk away with a ton of free advice, which is what I was doing until I found Career Protocol, who I really clicked with. I'll also say that you want to do this as early as you can because the best consultants will actually fill up really quick. This is a very hands-on service. They're not working with 100 different people. If you just go on Google and type in best MBA admissions consultants, you'll get tons of lists that you can set up initial calls with and see who you click with the most. I personally chose Career Protocol because they were actually probably the most fun of all the people I talked to. All the other consultants sell themselves in a very serious professional experience to help you obviously on a very serious and professional endeavor, which is an MBA. But Career Protocol had this kind of fun spin to it. And they really seemed like they wanted to make the process of applying to schools, which honestly sucks, an enjoyable one, which is what they did. Angela's the face and founder of Career Protocol. She's the person I had the initial consultation with. I really vibe with her mindset around the whole process, which was focused more on the career coaching and communication skills, more so than the application itself. And while she wasn't available, she connected me with one of her consultants, Britt, who is an amazing person. And I am so lucky I worked with her. Now she doesn't do admissions coaching, but has transitioned to coaching women on personal finance, and I think she's crushing it. So do you need an admission consultant to get into the best MBA schools? The answer is no. I venture to say most people get into these programs for that one actually. Lots of these consultants are moving more to a course model where they're selling tools and templates and advice on the application process itself without the hand-holding that goes along with it. I would do it again for 3 reasons. First is to get past the stigma of using coaches. All the greats use coaches. Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, had a quarterback coach. Graham Weaver, this uber successful PE founder, can't stop talking about how he talks to his coach every week. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has the same executive coach as Naval and the CEO of Reddit and so many others in Silicon Valley. The list is endless. So if you want to push and grow outside of where you're at today, you're probably going to need a coach to kind of get you there faster. The second is for the positive ROI. So Alex Hormozi is a genius for kind of coining this S&P 500 term, which is basically the idea that investing in yourself will pay more dividends than investing in the S&P 500. So if I invested the $8,000 I paid for admissions consulting into the S&P 500 in 2019 when I applied to schools, to today, I would have made $1,500. So add the gain and the initial investment of $8,000, I got way more than that in scholarships, so the investment was worth it. And the third reason is to maximize your opportunity to get into the best schools. I think we're all aware of the 80-20 principle, but in my opinion, applying to schools requires more of the 100 over 100 principle. Instead of putting a 20% effort to try to get a chance at getting into a good school, wouldn't you rather put in as much effort as you can to stack the odds in your favor to make sure that there's no way that you can't get into the school? Like looking back, the amount of effort that I put into getting into Wharton Lauder, there was a very, very low chance of me not getting in. If you can't afford to work with a personal consultant, good thing for you is that YouTube is an amazing source and there is a ton of free advice out there, including from Career Protocol, who I used, will probably give you a lot of the same advice they gave me. And I hope that you're finding tremendous value out of the videos that I'm making, where I'm trying to pass on all the coaching that I received over to you for free. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.